We joined Manchester United for 270 million euros, and now we have the chance to win the quadruple. We also plan to win the Ballon d'Or at the end of the season. However, one of our old friends wanted to stop us from doing so. Now, in order for us to win the quadruple and accomplish our goals, the first thing we needed to do was to make sure we followed Erik ten Hag's orders. Our objective was simple: win our next 3 games to give ourselves a 5-point lead against Tottenham Hotspurs at the top of the table. However, to complete this objective was not as easy as we'd expect. Things were looking dicey against Leicester, but thankfully Dylan Wright was able to be selfless and send Terrier away to give us the win in our first game. And up against Arsenal, we'd have to wait until the 75th minute before we'd find a breakthrough and break the deadlock to give us that 1-0 win to continue our run. We'd face Tottenham Hotspur up next. We'd take the lead first, but eventually Tottenham Hotspur would equalize, forcing us to share the points with them. But we still held a 2-point lead against them in the table, so it wasn't a complete loss. And then after the game, we get a message from an old friend. Well, I got 3 of them. This wasn't any normal message. In fact, it wasn't even a text message at all. It was a video file. It was a highlight reel of Vinicius Jr. and his current season at Real Madrid. This makes no sense because we're no longer a Real Madrid player and we're not facing them anytime soon. At first we didn't think anything of it, because we had bigger fish to fry, like our game against Arsenal. It was the semi-finals of the Europa League, one more trophy that we could collect for our quadruple charge, and of course Dylan Wright was motivated, so we scored a goal and grabbed a 1-0 victory in the first leg. And then heading into the second leg, we scored once more to seal endeavours in a pretty quiet and tame Europa League semi-final, all things considered. But then we headed into the FA Cup against Wolves. In just 20 minutes, Dylan Wright was on the receiving end of a crunching tackle, and he stayed on the ground for quite a bit of time. His knee didn't feel right, but he didn't tell anyone. Instead, he carried on with the game, trying to push through to give Man United that one-way ticket to Wembley once more for another FA Cup final in the club's history, and he would do so by scoring a brace. And at the end of the game, Dylan Wright may celebrate, but it seems like he has a secret to keep. Erik ten Hag sends us a monthly report. We're in the final of the FA Cup against Rotherham. We're facing Inter in the semi-finals of the Europa League, and we're first place in the Premier League with 5 games to go. So now it is time for us to face off against Inter Milan. Dylan Wright would then score a bicycle kick to give Man United the 1-0 victory. Anyways, we move on to the second leg, where things started off quite hot with the 51st minute seeing a Dylan Wright power shot saved by Onana. But as soon as he stepped up for that penalty, we all knew what the end result was gonna be. So once again, Dylan Wright helps out United, sending them into the Europa League final. But do you remember that message we got before the Arsenal game? Well, we got another one, and this time, we knew who it was from. Vinicius posted something online, and it's when he did this, it was when we realized that he was the one who sent that video. He seems angry, and he seems cocky. Seems to forget who Dylan Wright really is. So why don't we show him on the pitch what Dylan can really do. We're on top of the Premier League table with a game in hand and 2 points ahead. Our next match is going to be against our bitter rivals Chelsea, and we knew that we needed a win to increase our chances at picking up silverware as early as possible. So Dylan Wright took a shot, scored a goal, but unfortunately for us, Kai Havertz knows how to take penalties, and this game ends at 1-1. That's not what we wanted, and it meant that we headed into our Aston Villa game with a bit of pressure towards us, knowing that if we won this one, the title is ours, but if we dare lose or get a draw, then it goes out of our hands. And in the 85th minute, it seemed like that would be the case. But thankfully, David De Gea was able to save a penalty and keep our title hopes alive. We beat Aston Villa 1-0, and we escape by the skin of our teeth. Just 2 days later, we'd face off against Rotherham in the FA Cup final. Props to them for making it this far, but even they know that when they face off against Dylan Wright, there's only one possible result. So Dylan Wright took advantage of Rotherham's inferior back line by picking himself up 3 pretty neat goals, including a cheeky little penalty. But then our captain Amad Diallo got a little bit too rough with his tackle and he gets sent off. Why is this important? Well, you're gonna have to wait and see. The final whistle blew in Man United's favour, 3-0, and we have become the champions of the FA Cup, and it's only right that Dylan Wright be the one to lift the trophy, even though it's only because Amad Diallo got sent off. So now it's the final day of the Premier League season. We face off against Fulham, and a win or even a draw will make sure that we get the Premier League title. Dylan and Man United have won 2 trophies this season, and now 2 more are up for grabs. And it was not an easy game, but 1 goal from Dylan Wright was all Man United needed to become the champions of England. But don't forget, we're not done here. There is still one last trophy to claim. Definitely one of the hardest opponents that Dylan Wright has ever faced. Bayern Munich is all that stands in the way of the quadruple now. This was not an easy match for both parties. It was an all-out war, attack after attack, until eventually in the 70th minute, we would rely on De Gea to save us once again. Then it was extra time. Dylan Wright was sent through. Would he be able to handle the pressure? The pressure of knowing that he has waited 4 years for this European final. Knowing that he left the greatest team in football history to be here. Knowing that he is now one touch away from accomplishing the greatest feat in English football history. The question is, could he handle the pressure, or did he choke? Well, would you look at that? He actually did it. Well then, you may leave a like, you may subscribe, and you may click here to see me turn Jadon Sancho into the best player in the world.